When a nation gets anti-Semitic, it self-destructs. I don't know of any exception to that rule. And that's exactly what is happening there. The amount of good that would happen if the Islamic Republic is overthrown is almost too good to even imagine.
What is unfolding in Iran now is nothing short of miraculous. For 47 years, 90 million Iranians have been held hostage by this radical regime. Let's listen to our very dear colleague, Mr. Dennis Prager. May God bless his soul to continue in his recovery. Let's hear his take on what he thinks is what's happening in Iran right now in real time.
Can you comment on the Iran status, the revolution that is happening now? We have seen so many revolutions in Iran. People have tried to rise up against the regime there, and continuously they have been squashed. Do you think this uprising is going to be any different?
It looks like it will be different. And I wouldn't have said this even a week ago, but I think it is different. We're talking about millions and millions of Iranians all over Iran. And they are on the offensive. This was not the case in any previous widespread demonstrations in Iran. The demonstrations are massive. This corrupt, vile regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran can't give its people water. I mean, most third world countries give their people water, and Iran can't. It can't give the Iranian currency is worthless. It reminds me of the German currency at the end of the Weimar Republic, where people took wheelbarrows of Reichsmarks in order to buy a loaf of bread. This is what is happening there. And the people of Iran know in their hearts, at any rate, that this regime is corrupt. You know what it spent all its money on? It spent all its money on Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and every group that is dedicated to destroying Israel and killing all its Jewish inhabitants. That's what they spent their money on, and now they have no money for water. So, if I may digress for a moment, this is why I have said for years that anti-Semitism, when a nation gets anti-Semitic, it self-destructs. I don't know of any exception to that rule. And that's exactly what is happening there. The amount of good that would happen if the Islamic Republic is overthrown is almost too good to even imagine. It would be one of the great things to happen and deserved after October 7th, 2023.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up anti-Semitism in Iran because their leader originally ran on an anti-Zionist, anti-Jew, anti-West platform and kind of got everybody behind him. But now apparently research is coming out of the Iranian people that they're one of the least anti-Semitic people in the Middle East, mostly because they were so disgusted by what their leaders have done to them. And they realized that the whole thing was one giant lie just to get them into political power. And the other really interesting thing that is happening with the most recent revolution that we're seeing is that it's not just students. In the past, you saw students who are going to the streets in Iran. Now you're seeing merchants going out to the streets. So in the past, when the regime kind of neglected the uprising and called it, oh, just silly little students, let's just not pay attention to these little girls, now you're seeing actual merchants, people who can't sell anything, can't buy anything, can't run an economy. They're the bedrock of whatever is left in the Iranian economy, and they themselves are now coming out as no longer just the students, and wondering whether that can be enough of a change for the Iranian people to muster the courage to move forward.
Apparently it is. And I don't know if I would have said this a week ago, because I'm not an optimist about overturning evil regimes from within. But apparently it's so widespread. I mean, they've rendered the currency virtually worthless. They have no water to give their people. And by the way, I saw an amazing video on the internet about how the Iranian regime had mismanaged this giant lake in Iran and cut it off as a supplier of water. It's good for the heart to see the evil get what they deserve. And apparently, I don't know that this is true, but I've seen many reports that Khamenei has gone to, or will go to Russia. And I can only say Russia deserves him, and he deserves Russia.
It's a bizarre thing that some of the Iranians had more animosity towards the West than they had towards the Soviets, given what the Soviets have done to the Iranian people and the Soviets' relationship with the leader that literally destroyed their country.
I don't know. It's a very tough question. What do the Iranian people in general, understanding there are always exceptions, what do they really believe is the enemy of their country? The West or the dictatorships of the North and East? I don't know the answer, but it's clear now. I mean, I wrote, when I was still being published in the Los Angeles Times regularly, I wrote a long piece on the tragedy of abandoning the Shah. That, as bad as he might have been, he was a giant compared to what's coming in now. That was in 1979 or 1980, when people were saying we shouldn't support the Shah. And now the Shah's son they're chanting for him. I got to tell you, I kept hearing Marg bar dictator. Marg bar, even I who know no Farsi, even I know what that is. Marg bar Israel, Marg bar America is death to Israel and death to America. And now Marg bar has been shifted over to the leader of Iran, to the dictator.
If Donald Trump or Marco Rubio were listening to our conversation, what would you say to them now?
You two and others in your administration have done so much good in your first year that historians will be beside themselves that a guy they had total contempt for had achieved so much good.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dennis Prager. You are in our prayers, and it is so wonderful to see you once again and to hear you and to hear your perspective. Your optimism is so welcome because we are all praying and have been praying and waiting to see this change happen. There is so much that has unpacked in the past 2 years. And amidst all the sadness, the devastation, the losses that we have endured on October 7, since October 7, we cannot and shall not ignore the miracles as well that happen. And we cannot allow the darkness, the devastation of the horrific, terrible losses and torture, pain, and suffering that our fellow brothers and sisters gone through in these last 2 years. It's unimaginable. No one could ever unsee that image of Mrs. Bibas holding her two angelic redhead kids, the anguish in her face as she was taken hostage to the dark tunnels in Gaza. And then eventually those two beautiful children, they were choked and killed to death by hand by these Hamas subhuman terrorists. So the pain and suffering that we have endured in the past 2 years since October 7, 2023, has been so excruciating. Just learning about the hostages, their ordeals, those who perished, who were killed, who were murdered in the tunnels, and those who survived to tell the story. Only now are we starting to put the pieces together. And we think about the Nova Music Festival. We had 300 young people coming together to dance in peace, only to be killed, and then the rest taken hostage. There's so much tragedy, but we cannot and shall not forget the miracles that also happened during that time. True, the sadness, the devastation, the losses is a punch in everyone's gut, and it's so painful. And we cry out to God, why, why, why? We just read that in the Torah, in the Bible. Moses also had the same question to God, why, why, why? Why are you allowing this to happen? Why are you in heaven watching this happen? And when God explained to him, Moses, you cannot understand my ways. But one thing I want you to know, you tell them that I am with them as well. I am suffering with them as well. And I'm going through it as much as you are. But why do bad things happen to good people? We don't understand because we are not God. But one thing we know for sure, that if we look back and we realize and we begin counting the individual miracles that have unfolded, it is almost equal to the terrible darkness and disasters. What many don't know, that October 7 wasn't just going to be a breach of Gaza, of a border town. Their plans for October 7 was to be another Holocaust. They had pre-planned with Hezbollah, with Iran, with the Houthis. They were going to do a coordinated attack on the same specific day. But Yahya Sinwar preempted and did not coordinate with the other enemies, and he did it single-handedly. The miracle that we didn't have to deal with Hezbollah on October 7, or the Houthis, or Iran, that happened later. And that miracle itself is such a ginormous miracle that we seem to really not appreciate it, that God did not allow our enemies to annihilate us. Israel was in absolutely no position to be able to defend itself against all those borders at one time. It would have been overwhelmed. And one can only imagine what it would have been like. And then we begin the victories one after the other. The way Israel was able to neutralize Hezbollah through the miraculous beeper attack and the walkie-talkie attack, and then taking out Nasrallah, the miracles that how Israel is able to have these type of operations that went flawless, every single one of them, able to go into Iranian and take out their whole air defense system and take out 20 leaders of the Iranian regime. It just the amount of miracles that unfolded during those 2 years is definitely cause for us to realize that there is a God in heaven. We don't understand God's ways, and we can't even try to understand God's ways. But the same God that we complain to, why, it's the same God that gave us these miracles. The fact that Israel was able to neutralize, with the help of the United States of America, the nuclear program that has been the biggest threat to Israel, is a miracle in itself. I mean, the list of miracles are far many that need to be mentioned, but is oftenly ignored. And we need to be able to recognize it. We need to appreciate the miracles that God does to us and realize that. So what Mr. Dennis Prager has been talking about just now is the miracles that's happening right now in Persia, as we know it, as now called Iran. Persia is no stranger to the Jewish people and to Israel. We look back in history that we find that the great Cyrus, that was 6 BCE, the 6th century BCE, that he actually paved the way for the Jews who have been driven out of Israel to return to Israel, and he personally funded the rebuilding of the Second Temple. So we had very tight relations with Persia. But as history has told us, that doesn't always last very long. Up until 1979, when the Shah was still ruling Iran, they had great diplomatic relations with Israel. They had cooperations. The alliance with Iran and Israel was tight. There was a flight every single day from Tehran till Tel Aviv, where students would exchange between universities in Iran and in Israel. The doctors, the engineers, the technicians, all talents, we have all shared with each other, and we're able to advance and accomplish so much when we were together. We are always stronger together. And then came 1979, the revolution, and everything changed. 90 million Iranians were now subjected to tyranny, ruling by a bloodthirsty government who shouts death to Israel, death to America. That is their priority. There's been several uprisings over the years, and unfortunately, they were not victorious. But as Dr. Dennis Prager just mentioned, that this time is a little different, or a lot different. We are talking about post the war, the 12-day war that Israel had with Iran, post the Iranian economy crashing, post the drought that's happening in Iran. So things are lining up in a way that this may actually happen. One can only imagine and fathom what the miracles would be like if the regime can actually fall. The Ayatollahs and the imams, they flee the country and they head off, as Dennis said, probably to Russia. And as they say in Yiddish, Gesundheit, good riddance. Russia, enjoy them, and you deal with them. But bringing back the Shah's son, and to be able to restore a democracy and have a government that would be elected, and bringing democracy and freedom to 90 million people, is going to be not only a blessing for Iran, but a blessing for the whole Middle East and for the whole world. Iran has been a state sponsor of terrorism. Once they are gone, once they are neutralized, once the radical government is gone, Iran and Israel will renew relationships instantly. And Israel is all geared up and fired up, ready to come. Mr. Netanyahu made this offer in August of this year when the water problem began happening, when the drought began happening and the dams were becoming dry. Our prime minister offered Iran that we have the technology, we have the engineers, we have the ability to train how to recycle water, to use water again and again, and how to use the desalination plants to turn seawater into actual drinking water. Israel's ready to do it, and on an instant, it will do it to help the fellow Iranians out. So let's all hold hands in prayer that what Dr. Dennis Prager is projecting actually does happen. Let us witness the fall of the Iranian government as it is now, and let a new, moderate democracy, a government who is going to treat its citizens with all the freedoms and liberties as they deserve as human beings, and that the world can see a much greater future. Let's pray, and we hope that that happens speedily in our days. God bless you. God loves you.